Hello World Wide Web, I'm Dr. Shado, the internet personality with the best hair. And today on...
The Summer of Freddy versus Jason!
We'll be taking a look at the 7th movie in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, Wes Craven's New Nightmare. While production started with the working title A Nightmare on Elm Street 7, The Ascension, Wes Craven's New Nightmare is less a continuation of the stories from the movies and more a reboot. A reboot where all the other movies definitely did happen, it's just, while they are canon as having been movies, and the characters and events of said movies never really happened. From what I can tell, New Line wanted Wes to come back for the 7th movie in the series, as he did the 1st and the 3rd, which can easily be picked out as the best ones, and he had watched all of the movies in preparation and came to the conclusion that it didn't make any goddamn sense, the story was impossible to follow, and Freddy wasn't scary anymore. Also, legend has it, the idea of Freddy crossing over from fantasy into reality at New Line Cinema, tormenting the actors in the real world, was an idea Wes already had for the series, which he pitched as the 3rd movie. At that point, the concept was considered ridiculous and rejected, but I suppose after several entries of Freddy becoming increasingly cartoony, they figured it can't be any worse than what every other writer had been doing to the character. It also, in my opinion, is an early look at the direction that Wes was taking with things like Scream, which came out 2 years later, where you have horror happening in the real world, populated by fans of horror. But nevertheless, let's take a look at Wes Craven's New Nightmare and see if it truly revitalized the series, or if there is a very good reason why it was followed up by yet another reboot. It opens familiarly enough in the construction of a vicious-looking clawed weapon. Only this time it's not really a glove. There doesn't seem to be much room for a hand in there at all, but don't worry, our psychotic engineer has taken this eventuality into account.
More blood! Great, keep it coming, Chuck. Terry, pump away.
But it was all just a movie! Like, more than usual.
Keep that claw really moving, and Jeffrey, jam it on there just like Freddy would. Good.
Ah, yeah, just like Freddy. Gotta be careful with this, or just polish these claws. Seems we're on the set of a new Nightmare on Elm Street film with Wes Craven in charge. We also see Heather Langenkamp playing the role of Heather Langenkamp. She's involved in this movie as a starring role, while her husband Chase, played by David Newsom, heads up the special effects team, consisting of Chuck and Terry, played by Matt Winston and Rob LaBelle. They've got the latest technology in the new Freddy glove, including biomechanical circuitry, though there are a few bugs to work out. Yeah, sometimes it gets a mind of its own, goes nuts, and starts killing people, but I'm sure they can work around it. It hasn't killed anyone in front of a camera yet. After taking Chuck down, the glove makes short work of Terry. Then Dylan, played by Michael Hughes, steps out of frame briefly and disappears, terrifying his mother almost as much as the glove moving in to take out her husband. But it was all just a dream! About a movie. In a movie. About dreams. I'm lost already. They awoke due to a sudden earthquake, which is an aftershock as it happens that they've been having far more earthquakes than usual around the LA area. Also, I should note here that while Heather was married to a special effects guy and they had a son about Dylan's age at the time, neither of the actors who portray them are their real-life counterparts or named after them. Not to say none of her personal life managed to make its way into the storyline.
Hasn't been another phone call, has there?
No.
Good sign. 2 full weeks without him.
Heather's got a stalker, and that was based on the real-life fact that Heather had a stalker. Eat your heart out, method actors. Point is, Chase got nicked in the fingers in the same place Heather saw him get cut in the dream. But that's no bother. Probably happened in the earthquake, so he goes off to work, confident there's nothing weird at all going on today. See, only 3 of the wall crack claws came in fully. Had the 4th one done that, that would have been far more worrying. There's also her kid looking like a zombie, but that's normal for children watching TV. She doesn't want him watching horror movies, though. Damn, Child Protective Services call fast.
Hello?
1, 2... no, it's just a stalker. That's slightly better news, honestly.
flow.
Freddy's coming for you!
Hey, calm down. Maybe it's just Chase trying to surprise you with Freddy's catering services. Before we get too much further, we are also introduced to Dylan's babysitter, Julie, played by Tracy Middendorf. And the phone rings again.
Leave us alone, you son of a bitch!
LA limousine, ma'am. Just wanted you to know I'm out front.
You know, Heather, this would be a lot more efficient if you just set your answering machine's message to you screaming, "Fuck off!" The point of it all is she's scared of her stalker, but life goes on, and one short limo ride later, she finds herself giving an interview with a host who has no concept of personal boundaries or how to shut the fuck up.
Those hours let me spend a lot more time with my husband and my little boy.
That's right, you have a little boy. What's his name?
Age, favorite candy, safe word. The conversation goes on to what Heather thinks about children Dylan's age watching horror movies, which she is steadfastly against. And then the question comes up of how she'd react to having her co-star Robert Englund babysit Dylan. Before she can answer, though. Robert Englund pops out, playing Freddy Krueger, played by Robert Englund, playing... Fuck, I got confused again. The crowd goes wild, and we see Robert as portraying the sillier, happy-go-lucky Uncle Freddy that the kids in the crowd eat up. They kept it secret from Heather because it's still about a decade until Scare Tactics airs on TV. There's more Robert would like to do with Heather, though.
I think I'd like to see us together again.
In what, a romantic comedy?
Just because it's a love story doesn't mean you can't have a decapitation or two.
Damn, Rob, that's the first romantic comedy pitch I've ever heard that actually makes me want to watch it. Before long, Heather is called up by Sarah Risher, played by Sarah Risher. You know, a producer for A Nightmare on Elm Street. She informs that fellow producer Bob Shea wants to talk to her, and Heather heads over there. Turns out Wes Craven has been coming up with a wicked idea for a new Nightmare on Elm Street sequel from these nightmares he's been having.
He's very excited about it.
The nightmares?
No, sweetie, the script. And you should be too, because you're the star.
And for some reason, people keep going on about, oh, but Freddy's dead, like that would even fucking matter. But never mind that. The bigger problem I'm having with this is Nancy Thompson died way back in Dream Warriors. And the first movie, but evidently that one doesn't count. She also learns here that her husband's actually working on the new glove for the movie, which is the first she's heard of this. She doesn't out and reject the idea, but does make the case for the fact that things are just really weird right now. Like when she gets home to hear Dylan screaming his head off, allowing her to skip out on tipping her driver because her child needs her.
Never sleep again. Never sleep again.
Is this weird behavior for him? I mean, you spend so much time in this movie establishing so much, but with Dylan, you never really established that there was any other modes for him besides monotone droning and screaming. Julie says that he was napping, so no, he didn't watch any movies, so Heather calls her husband up about this, finding out he's been working himself ragged because both Chuck and Terry didn't bother showing up today. Still, the fact that the stalker started calling Heather up again is enough to get him to drop everything and head home. This somehow takes so long that not only does the sun set, but Heather is putting her son to bed.
The witch meant to shut the door and bake her when she was inside. Dylan, this is so violent. I don't know why you like these stupid old fairy tales.
Lady, it's Hansel and Gretel. At his age, well, God, what did I see? Beastmaster? Phantom of the Paradise? Fuck it, I saw bunnies getting decapitated and I shat in a bucket. And I turned out perfectly fine. It seems that Dylan has heard this story a great many times anyway, considering he can recite it from memory while Heather waffles around unwilling to read the harshly worded passages. With that out of the way, Dylan can go to sleep, and so can Chase, who somehow spent so long on the road driving home, he's falling asleep at the wheel like he's been driving for 2 days straight. Oh God, not a wall! Oh, he was doing so well before that wall! Her nightmare about her husband's death is interrupted by her son, though, droning on and on.
Dylan, go back to sleep, honey.
I'm not sleepy.
Note to self, never have kids. God, they're creepy. Thankfully, Dylan is interrupted by the police, who have shown up to let Heather know bad news. Husband died in a wreck. Sorry about that. However, when she goes to identify the body, she notices something.
I'd like to see once again.
I'm sorry?
Could you lift the sheet again, please?
I gotta get off on this, to be honest. Nah, it's the big obvious claw mark, which everyone else around her shrugs off because it was a bad wreck, so giant claws, and who cares. But then at Chase's funeral, there's a sudden tremor, knocking his dead ass around, and before Heather knows it, her son is missing. I'm docking your pay for this shit! Have no fear, Heather Langenkamp is here. Diving down to grab a hold of her child, she saves him in the nick of time. Then gets uncomfortably close to her now zombified husband, who doesn't take till death do us part for an answer. But it was all just a dream! Which is kinda how it works, but never mind. Robert ensures Heather that he'll be there if she needs support, and Dylan is perfectly fine.
Baby, wake up.
You know, sleepwalking, watching A Nightmare on Elm Street on TV, screaming constantly, but when you think about it, he's not getting any worse. He's also still reciting the Freddy Krueger by numbers, and Heather will have none of this. After things do calm down, it does seem that Dylan is upset about his father's death, though. Heather tries to soften the blow, telling him Chase is with God now.
Do you have to die to see God?
I don't think so. I think you have to pray.
Well, some people have reported success with LSD. This sad heart-to-heart doesn't really do much to make Dylan any less of a zombie, though. Fortunately, Heather has kept in touch with John Saxon, playing the role of John Saxon, and he's an expert on kids all of a sudden.
You really think Dylan's okay?
Dylan's fine.
How long until he nearly kills himself? Well, actually, that's how long it took for them to notice him about to kill himself. He's been climbing up there for the whole time they've been talking about being all concerned and paying attention to him. Actions speak louder than words, though, so she rushes out and catches Dylan before it's too late, only to hear him bemoan the fact that God didn't want to take him. No bother, we move on to Heather getting a letter from her stalker. The letter E! Now, whatever it is, it can go with the rest of them, because she's got to call up Robert Englund to ask if he's got any insight as to what the hell's going on, and also about this damn movie. Does Wes even know what he's doing yet?
I asked him how far he was at the funeral. What did he say? Oh, yeah. As far as Dylan trying to reach God, whatever that means.
The movie he's writing is the movie they're in! Which is reality. But it's a movie set in reality of a movie. Oh, god damn it, I'm confused again! Hearing Heather's having nightmares about a darker and more evil Krueger, though, confuses Robert, but he can't have her come over just now. He's got something he has to finish. The hell is that, Rage Face Krueger? So she'll get back in touch with him later. This means it's time for bed. That's normally something you don't bother showing in a movie, but considering this is A Nightmare on Elm Street, or Hollywood Boulevard anyway, this is an ample time for weird happenings, ripped sheets, and psychotic children.
Never sleep.
Hey, the kid's like 4 and he hasn't slept in a week. How is he overpowering you? Because it was all just a dream! Dylan's not crazy, he's perfectly fine and even cognizant enough to solve the letter puzzle for Mommy. Answer the phone.
Yes.
I touched him.
Okay, Krueger, that's fucked up. Also, an interesting bit of trivia, the tongue phone from the first movie was actually a favorite prop of Heather Langenkamp, and she wanted to take it home with her. Pretty sure this wasn't exactly what she had in mind, though. With Dylan freaking out even more than usual, Heather takes him to the hospital. Fortunately, Dr. Hefner here, played by Fran Bennett, already knows what the problem must be.
But I'm convinced those films can tip an unstable child over the edge.
He never watched those movies. No movies? Must be video games. No games, either. Rock and roll it is. They have to keep Dylan overnight for testing, though, so they give him a sleeping pill to help conk him out, which he secretly does not take. Heather's plans to meet up with Robert Englund kind of fall through when she gets his voicemail, though, informing her that they're out of town and will be for quite a while, so instead she just heads over to Wes Craven's house to find out what the hell is going on in this movie.
I dream a scene at night, I write it down in the morning. Beyond that, your guess is as good as mine where it's going.
Well, at least tell me what it's about so far.
Well, there's nightmares, your husband dies, your kid goes nuts, and then there's this scene where I'm rolling around in a jello pool in a cloud of cotton candy. That's probably going to wind up a deleted scene. He explains the concept behind the new movie, that in this world there exist demons who exist solely to kill innocent people. As some weird piece of fine print, though, their one weakness is being written about in a story. Thus, Freddy Krueger wasn't just a character in a movie, he was a means to trap an ancient evil. However, through ever shittier sequels, and even worse, declaring the character dead, the demon has been set free. It quite likes the form of Krueger, though, and has decided it will use it while moving over from its realm into our own.
Did you know?
It
It was a script. It was a dream. I didn't.
I mean, yeah, I wrote about your husband dying and he did, and your kid being hospitalized and he was, but come on, Heather, how the hell was I supposed to know any of that? The only hope they have, according to Wes, is if Heather agrees to star in a new Nightmare movie to seal the demon away once again and save the real world from its wrath.
You're gonna have to make a choice.
Choice? What kind of choice?
Whether or not you're willing to play Nancy one last time.
Heather, do you have any idea how hard it was to keep a straight face throughout the whole thing? The whole time, halfway through, I was already like, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck! While preliminary guesses are Dylan has childhood schizophrenia, a quick encyclopedia glance shows it might just be sleep deprivation. A sudden interruption by a news broadcast also points out that those two guys who died in the opening dream are actually dead, just so you know. Body count's 3 times higher than you thought. One more tremor knocks out the power, and some weird noises arrest Heather's attention.
Miss me?
And now, like 80 fucking minutes into the movie, Krueger is back in full force. But as this is a 2-hour flick, he can't kill Heather just yet, only slashing her arm before another tremor wakes her. Or gets her more awake. Or, fuck, I have no idea how this works. But she heads down to the hospital to make sure her son is okay. Turns out Julie also came down as she was concerned, but before they can let Heather pass, they have to patch up her mysterious cuts that she swears she got in the recent earthquake.
It happened just 15 minutes ago. You must have felt it.
Guess we lucked out over here.
So, did the quake wake her, or was the quake part of the dream? Or did she wake up from a dream quake? It's kind of like a falling dream can wake you, even though you're not actually falling. When Heather lets it slip that she's afraid Freddy is coming for her kid, Dr. Hefner ups her resolve against these damn horror movies. Still, they let Heather sit in Dylan's room, who is now relegated to an oxygen tent because... things. Shouldn't he have flatlined after removing the vitals monitor? I'm just saying.
Almost there.
Almost there.
Freddy, wrong movie series. What are you doing? So shit gets crazy real fast, but don't worry. Dr. Hefner is here to help.
Let's get him over. Good and fast. Cut this evil out of him.
Okay, something happened there. Oh, while she slept, they took Dylan out of the room for more testing, and Heather looked so peaceful. This ends quite quickly as she explodes out of the room, trying to find where they brought Dylan, restricted area or no.
Do you have a pass? Screw your pass.
This movie's just chock full of references and nods to the first movie in the series, not so much any others, but still! But it turns out Julie's here, and together they find out Dylan's okay. But he feels scared without his plushy dinosaur, so Heather tells him she's gonna go right home and get it for him. This plan is interrupted, though, when security is called and Heather finds herself being psychologically evaluated by Dr. Hefner, while her miscellaneous goon nurses prepare to sedate Dylan.
No, his mother specifically said... I said no.
Do it.
Ow! Well done.
Have they done this before? How often do they have to strategize fights with their patients?
You bitch.
And yet they still didn't see that one coming. Julie fights off the remaining nurse with the other syringe, but unfortunately can't do anything to prevent Dylan from falling asleep, which doesn't bode well for her.
Keep your eyes open, Hugo. Dylan, what's the matter?
Showing us in good lighting the new darker, more evil Freddy, who keeps his outfit remarkably clean, all things considered. Not that Julie can tell, as she can't even see him. He is more than capable of stabbing the fuck out of her, though. Interestingly enough, the long coat was one of the original concepts for Freddy, as it was closer to what the homeless guy who scared the crap out of Wes Craven as a kid was wearing. Also, the new glove design is based on the way it was drawn in many movie posters, looking more biomechanical, and with a knife on the thumb, too.
Help me.
Julie!
And Krueger's back to his classic style of kills. Still a bit snarky, but holy fuck does he take his job seriously. Unfortunately, by the time Heather gets away from the Inquisition, Julie is dead, and Dylan is nowhere to be found. Turns out the hospital didn't take into account that a sleepwalking kid might just sleepwalk the fuck out of there even if sedated. So it's all come down to Heather Langenkamp. And John Saxon, who she calls up to get to her house in case Dylan shows up there, but before long she sees where her kid is heading. The freeway. Which they achieve with a blue screen effect as opposed to a stunt kid. Or 12. We also get the supernatural Freddy fucking with things coming out of the clouds to dangle Dylan over death like a douche. Heather is practically killed trying to save him, but the kid makes it through just fine and goes back home without her. By the time she gets back there, we find Dylan's okay. I mean, still droning on in a zombie Dylan mode, but what else is new? John's there too, but he's actually acting weird.
What the hell is going on, Nancy?
Why are you calling me Nancy, John?
Why are you calling me John?
Guys, this is not the time nor the place for an existential crisis. But it turns out the Krueger demon has gone so far as to push the movie world into the real world, meaning Heather Langenkamp is kinda sorta playing Nancy Thompson right now. Oh, and Krueger's on the way.
I am the Great Cornholio!
If anything, he sure knows how to make an entrance, taking the time to give a Shado tribute to Nosferatu before Heather even gets back into the house. Turns out while she was outside, Krueger snatched up the kid and hightailed it out of there. However, she finds a trail of sleeping pills leading to Dylan's bed. Only there's nothing there. But Heather knows what to do.
You've given me a way to join you.
One's enough to knock you out, usually. 2, gonna work really quick. 3, you're gonna be having another meeting with those doctors if you keep that up. It's a movie, though. Or a dream. Or the real world that's about dreams in a movie world in... confused again. The point is, the bed extends down into a slide, which then becomes a water slide, which eventually dumps Heather into a painting, and down into some gothic horror tunnels. She doesn't find Dylan just yet, but perhaps better than that, she trips across the movie script/strategy guide.
There was no movie. There was only her life.
I'm reading, kid! No, it turns out Krueger had Dylan, but let him go. Because, it's the climax, and he's gotta go through Heather to get her kid.
Pick a pet. What a rugrat, bitch.
Yet he's still more concerned about toying with his prey rather than killing them. Or maybe he's getting antsy because he hasn't said bitch in a while. Heather does pick one out and shows it to Krueger in an extreme close-up. This buys her enough time to get Krueger to catch back up with her to finish the bitch off. Problem is Dylan's still around and stabbed him in the leg, so screw it, he's gotta go after the kid first, chasing him into a furnace, where Dylan fits just fine, but Krueger is having some trouble squeezing through. Not that it stops him. So was the claw on the metal just to scare Dylan enough to give Freddy enough power to stretch out his arm, or was it just a means to wake Heather up for the movie? The dream. Fuck it. Point is she gets there fast enough to stab him in the ass, allowing Dylan to slip away before they lock Krueger in the furnace and crank that bitch up to 11. Tell me, I'm not the only one here who finds an interesting sense of irony in the fact that a demon, who is taking the form of Freddy Krueger, happens to be easily killed with fire. Point of it all is happy ending! With the demon down, the dream world begins exploding everywhere! So Heather takes her kid and runs like hell back into the water, which drops them out back into the real world. The new Krueger is dead, and will now be sealed once more. You can tell because Wes Craven's finally finished the script.
Is it a story?
Yeah, it's a story.
I wonder why that didn't make it into any of the advertisements. Come see Wes Craven's new nightmare. It's a story! Anyway, that was Wes Craven's new nightmare, and I remember I didn't think too highly of it when I first saw it way back when. I honestly don't know what was wrong with me back then. I remembered the weirdness of the movie being set in a movie set and the script being slowly written and, of course, the ending of, yeah, we just survived a trip to hell and back, so let's huddle up and read about how our friends and family were killed as we went on a trip to hell and back. but honestly, a lot of the weirdness presented here does work if you give it a chance. Taking a step back from the established setting of Springwood and instead setting the story in LA, a lot of the weirdness going on doesn't automatically come off as supernatural. Indeed, even after several watches, it's hard to say what on the first half of the movie is demonic and what is just plain old shit you gotta deal with in life. The stalker, the earthquakes, mysterious deaths. There's a much heavier emphasis on psychological horror this time around, which is easy to fuck up, but thankfully, most of it works. There are still some parts I find iffy though, like the letter spelling out "answer the phone," which didn't have much of a build-up outside of one letter, and it didn't add anything. Also, there wasn't a great deal of scares. Startling things would happen, but no real big scares like you'd expect out of this series until the later half of the movie. There is a great atmosphere at work though, and a distinct feeling of dread right from the beginning that only grows and grows as time goes on. Also, there's piles and piles of references fans of the franchise can geek out over. Well, fans of the first movie anyway. Overall, Wes Craven's New Nightmare takes the franchise in a wildly different direction for the setting, the substance, and the style, but a great deal of it works out. There are ways I think it came up short, but I'm hard to press to come up with solid recommendations on how I would change it, considering what is here is very well balanced as it is. Nevertheless, I feel comfortable with a score of 4 snakes in the face out of 5. And now I'm just wondering what the hell was wrong with me when I first saw it and I didn't get it. I mean, yeah, I was 11 at the time, but still. Oh well. Thank you all for watching. I've been Dr. Shado. And remember, this Freddy is darker, more evil, more derp.
Just because it's a love story doesn't mean you can't have a decapitation or two.